In this video, I'll show you a cutting technique. I worked with round layers in that, and the front part is a bit longer. It is extremely suitable for a length from medium to very long, and also extremely suitable for the customer with curly hair. Go check out this fun technique, and next week I'll post a color technique that matches this cutting line. Enjoy watching. Here's the end result of my round layers with increasing layers at the front. This cutting line is extremely suitable for medium to long hair and ideal for those with curly hair. The section I make is 1 centimeter behind the highest point and runs slightly diagonally behind the ear. Next is taking 2 lines on the curvature of the head so that I can place it above its plane. I have 2 on the side, then a straight line on the occipital bone so that I have a parting on the back and bottom as well. With the cam controller technique, I determine my length. When you cut longer hair in this line, then your bottom length is also much longer than this line. I'm going to work with round layers. I take a section in the middle, and my guideline is the bottom section. I join it nicely there. My fingers are proportional to the skull shape, and in this way, I cut nice round layers. I work with a rising guideline, so with the curvature of the head, I go along with the layering. I always take my previous past with me to my next, that I create a beautiful round line in this way, and that I can connect all the passes nicely to each other. Each section comes straight from the top. This way I know I'm working with nice round layers. From the middle, I always work my way through personally first, move to the right, then from there I go back to the center and work my way to the left. That's just a comfortable way for me to work. As you can see here, I'm recording fine passages. I always stick to my guideline from my previous pass. And when I'm completely done, I'll look in the opposite direction to see if my layer is actually nicely rounded. From here, I'm going to cut the section on the back of the head. I moisten the hair slightly and start in the middle. The same as at the bottom with the section. That section is about 1 centimeter to 1.5 centimeters wide. This area is too large for me to cut at once because the section is wider than I can hold in my fingers. I take the guideline from the bottom, and as you can see, I've split my section in 2 and I work my way up that way. What's important is that your fingers are always proportional to the shape of the skull. So every hook comes out 90 degrees from the head to create those round layers that I also want to see. I'm still working with the traveling guideline to reinforce the roundness I want to see in my final results. You understand when you start with longer lengths, so you first, for example, if the cutting line is twice as long, your layers will also be twice as long. Your starting point is therefore very decisive for your end result. The flat area on the back of the head is an exact copy of your underside. So you perfectly align everything. Always carry your guideline with you so you don't lose yourself in the dome, because everything must fit neatly and beautifully together. Of course, you have your guideline from the bottom section to which you can align it. You carry over your previous cutting line and you can see that guideline coming through between your fingers. And in that way, you connect everything nicely together. I'm now working with my scissors and it's a great way to shape, but I could also choose to use a knife to cut everything evenly or use a notching technique. It's up to you what you find comfortable. When I'm done with the surface on the back of the head, I start on the side. I'm now going to work with a fixed guideline. So that means I'm pulling all sections towards one specific line, and that extra length is created at the front. So here I take my fixed guideline, I project the hair diagonally backwards towards the round layer I cut before, and I match it up nicely. Each time I take another section, pull it backwards towards my fixed guideline and match it up nicely again. When I work with a fixed guideline, the PC between my fingers will gradually get thicker, because I have to go back to the starting point each time to create that extra length at the front. Work with thin sections, make sure they connect well, and this way I get extra length at the front. I repeat the same technique on the other side. And now I must say, of course, I was busy with those cameras and normally my body would be on the other side. That I always cut from low to high, because here you see that I can do it very well. You know that I cut from top to bottom, and that's more taxing on your body. Plus, it's easier to cut from the bottom to high. But if I were to do that, yeah, there I was again, my body in front of the camera. So for me, it's sometimes a bit, well, seeing how it's best captured. This way, it's best captured on camera. But if you're going to cut your client's hair like this in the salon, stand on the other side so you cut from bottom to top. When I can bring it down, you'll see that there's still a tiny point sticking out. With the can controller technique, I close it off just nicely. When I'm done with the side parts, then the final area at the top comes. Even now, split this passé again into two. I take out my grid line from the crown section and I project everything very strongly to the back. So a strong animal storyline is created going forward. Because that way I have extra length at the front too. Again, each section comes straight out of the head because I also want to create that curvature on top that I maintained on the back of the head. I work with a traveling guideline, I take my previous section along, and in this way I connect everything nicely together. Television Guideline 2021. Always make it as easy as possible for yourself. If the passageway is truly too wide, just split it into two so you maintain control over what you're cutting and that you can work systematically. Once you've done the top part completely, I come to the sides to check if everything aligns nicely. If there's still a bit sticking out, you can align it nicely from here. You also see me working the same way constantly. I did that in the neck area, on the back of the head, now on the top part. I'm starting. Always with my guideline in the middle, I first work to the right, then I go back to the middle and work to the left. As you can see, my body remains in the same place. Like I just mentioned, it's simply easiest to cut when your scissors point from the bottom upwards. Then your shoulder is low, your arm is low, your back is straight. That's just the most comfortable way to cut. Well, I've turned the head just now, so you all can see exactly. You can see that I include the previous pass in my cutting line, so I work with a rising guideline. I pulled him back to add that extra length to the front. And in that way, I make everything connect smoothly. When I've done the entire top, then I'll start thinning it out. When you start thinning out the hair, you need to assess the quality of hair you're dealing with. There are so many different ways to texture the hair, but I want a lot of volume in the hair. I angle my thinning scissors and work my way up bit by bit, as you can see. Then, right at the end, on top, I put my thinning shears in again to make sure I end up with a thinner tip. But as I said, this dome is also great for use on curly hair, but then you have to be a bit more careful with your evaluation, because then you don't want to create a whole fuzzball. Then you could, for example, make a nice cut, and then maybe we can do some evaluation on the details. And what you didn't see just now, I'm kind of licking my finger. I cut the net into my finger. Oh, hilarious. Yes, that doesn't happen to me. You know the feeling you cut your finger and think, oh, ouch, no blood, and yes, then it starts to bleed. I use the twister because I really want to end up in a curl. You can see the madness might have a slight bend, but when I put the twists in and start drying with my diffuser, I can get as much curl out as possible. Then I always apply it generously to the ends first. Once the ends are fully covered, then I apply the product to the roots. With the diffuser, I let the hair rest in it airily. I let the hair hang to the side so it comes loose from the head, which allows me to create a lot of volume. To make the curl a bit calmer, I'll grab a curling iron and just randomly curl some strands. If it's not working out, I'll just work around it. I just grab chunks. I can't get through them because I don't want a completely sleek and neat curl in the end. It can be a bit of a messy curl, but it can stay. So, no clip around it either. I twirl my curl, wrap it around my curling iron. A glove protects you from the heat of the iron. And in this way, you create a somewhat rough or loose color that is still under control. With the aecosol spray from Royal KIS, I secure the hair a bit more. The advantage is it's an aerosol-free hairspray and you can knead it in a bit more. Here you see the final result. Nice round layers, a bit of a rougher curl, lots of volume. So I say good luck